The iron hull that would one day carry the name Omega began its life in the heavy, soot-choked air of late 19th century Scotland. In 1887, workers at the J. Russell and Company shipyard in Greenock hammered the final rivets into a massive four-masted cargo vessel. Christened the Drumcliffe, she was built of iron plates designed to withstand the immense pressure of the open ocean. She was launched during the final, desperate golden age of sail, a time when wind-driven ships grew larger and stronger to compete against the steady rise of steam power. Owned by the British firm Gillison and Chadwick, the Drumcliffe was originally rigged as a full ship, her 4 towering masts carrying a vast expanse of square sails. She was a global tramping vessel, built not for speed, but for raw capacity. For nearly 10 years, she plowed the trade routes between Europe, Australia, and the Americas, carrying whatever heavy bulk cargo could pay her way. By the late 1890s, however, the economics of global shipping had grown brutal. Steamships were moving faster and capturing the most profitable routes, forcing sailing vessels to cut costs simply to survive. In 1896, while docked in the harbor of Hamburg, Germany, the Drumcliffe's destiny shifted. Her owners ordered her configuration altered to a four-masted barque. Her furthest mast was stripped of its complex square rigging and converted to simpler fore and aft sails. This technical change allowed a smaller crew to manage her immense canvas, tossing the aging ship an economic lifeline. 2 years later, in 1898, her British identity was erased entirely. A German shipping company based in Hamburg purchased the vessel and painted a new name across her stern, Omega. Under the German flag, the barque became an enduring workhorse of the Pacific grain and nitrate trades. She weathered the roaring currents of Cape Horn and ran the gauntlet of global trade for well over a decade. But it was geopolitics, rather than a storm, that eventually altered her course forever. In the summer of 1914, while the Omega was docked in the Peruvian port of Callao, Europe erupted into the First World War. Stranded thousands of miles from Germany and facing the absolute dominance of the British Royal Navy on the open seas, her captain had no choice but to stay in port. The neutral Peruvian government interned the ship. For years, the great steel barque sat idle, her rigging collecting salt dust and her hull gathering barnacles in the humid harbor air. When Peru eventually entered the war against Germany, the vessel was seized as a prize. For a brief period around 1918, she found new life as a naval training ship, teaching young Peruvian cadets how to handle canvas and iron in an era that had already moved on to dreadnoughts and submarines. After the war, she was formally handed over to Peru as part of post-war reparations. By the mid-1920s, most ships of her generation had already been broken up in scrapyards. The Omega, however, found a highly specific, grueling niche that would prolong her life for another 3 decades. In 1926, she was transferred to the state-run Peruvian Guano Board. Peru's offshore islands were home to millions of marine birds whose droppings formed massive deposits of guano, the world's most potent natural fertilizer. Harvesting this heavy, pungent cargo from rocky islands and hauling it to mainland ports was brutal, low-margin work. It was far too expensive to waste fuel running modern steamships for such a trade. But for a massive, paid-off iron barque that cost nothing to run but the wind, it was an ideal match. For 32 years, the Omega became a ghostly, anachronistic fixture along the Peruvian coast. While the world outside fought the Second World War, ushered in the atomic age, and constructed commercial jetliners, the Omega's crew continued to climb her rigging by hand. By 1957, following the tragic sinking of the famous German four-masted barque Pamir and the permanent layup of the Passat, maritime historians noted a profound milestone. The 70-year-old Omega had become the absolute last operational commercial square-rigged sailing vessel left on the planet. Her aging condition caught the eye of authors like Frederick D. Wilhelmsen, who captured her twilight years in his 1956 book, Omega, Last of the Barques. But 70 years of salt water and the highly corrosive nature of guano cargoes had silently compromised her iron skin. The final chapter of her legendary run unfolded on June 26, 1958. Under the command of Peruvian master Captain Juan Anibal Escobar Hurtado and manned by an 18-man crew, the Omega departed the Pachacamac Islands heavily loaded with 3,000 tons of bulk guano. As she was being towed along her routine coastal route between Isla San Lorenzo and the Islas Palomino by the steam tug Rio Morona, disaster struck. The structural deterioration from decades of wear finally culminated in a catastrophic hull failure. A sudden, severe leak opened up, sending a massive influx of seawater into the lower decks. The dry guano cargo instantly absorbed the incoming water, transforming into a heavy, unmanageable sludge that listed the vessel heavily to one side. Realizing the ship was doomed, Captain Escobar raised immediate distress signals. Within mere minutes, all 18 crew members safely evacuated to the Rio Morona without a single casualty. Roughly 1 hour after the leak began, the Omega sank into the dark waters off Callao. The aftermath of the sinking sparked a bitter and highly controversial legal battle. The Compañía Administradora del Guano launched a high-level investigation. Though initial assessments found no immediate crew errors, Peruvian maritime authorities later explicitly accused Captain Escobar of deliberately sinking the vessel. His master's license was permanently suspended. Escobar spent the rest of his life fighting to clear his name, presenting underwater photographic evidence proving structural failure, but he passed away in 1964 without ever receiving an official exoneration. By June 29, 1958, naval divers officially declared the shattered hull completely unsalvageable. The loss of the Omega did not just mark the tragic end of an old Scottish iron ship, but the absolute closing chapter of the commercial square-rigged merchant era, anchoring the ancient bond between canvas and wind permanently to the sea floor.